to take some stat courses, of course. This was, I believe, now to the exam part. 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I was going to have a look. Please, 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 if you didn't already, please be aware that in my website, somewhere under course material, I have a link to collection of previous exams. And it's very small, but it just tells you there's all the exams that I have produced since 2004 when I started doing this. When I came here for the first time at DTU, you can see here. Actually, one of them is not made by me. I'm not saying you which one. But all the rest is made by me. So you have a pretty good chance of getting an idea of how I make the exams, right? Now we are focused to us. Now I've said all the nice and good things about you saving the future when you're finished there. Now you have to think about passing the exam, right? That's the focus. Maybe you have been there all the time. I realize that's probably how it is. But I mean, I like to talk about the future a little bit for you also. I think that's my duty also. But now it's fair enough to say you have to think about how do you, to the best possible way, pass the exam. That's fair enough. That's the goal now. The best possible way is to practice the exams. That's my recommendation. I mean, it's up to you, of course, how you want to spend your time. My recommendation is practice the exams. You should be aware that all the quizzes that I've shared with you are, if you didn't realize, I think I've said that pretty clear through, but all the quizzes comes from these exams. So there is an overlap in the quiz questions along the course with the exam questions that you can find links to here, right? The exam will be a copy, not of the question, but of the form, as you can see on all of them. So the first sheet will look like this. I just have to be careful that it's the right date here, and not 15th of December coming up. And then there is one sheet, I'll just jump up. There is one sheet for you to fill in. You just fill in these numbers of the correct answers, and that's the only thing you hand in. Just this one sheet, right? And then you will get 30 questions, that's for sure. And the questions come in different exercises, and we have this maybe a bit odd double numbering, but now I sort of inherited that and I didn't change it. So you can see there is an exercise 1 with 2 sub-questions, and then there is an exercise 2 with 3 sub-questions, and an exercise 3 with 2, and so on. Like this, right? But then you could also just follow. There is also a fourth running question numbering from 1 to 30. That's how it looks also in 2 weeks when you see it on the 15th. Any questions for that part, for the sort of the formality, the practicality of it? You'll get one both in Danish and in English. Question? Pencil or permanent pen, I don't care, whatever. Please fill it out. One of my old colleagues, just a short story, I'm sorry, I have to tell it. He had once a sheet like this. Did this, did that, did that, did that, did that. I did all of them. That's not a good way of doing the exam, right? That's a bit not so good. That's a stupid mistake to make, at least. Anyway, then if you come up with sort of certain question about, you can also evaluate that the way we give points, 5 points for a correct and -1 for a wrong, there is on average a positive effect of just pure guess, right? It's not a neutral thing. And then if you can udelukke, if you can throw away, a good English word for udelukke, exclude. Thank you, exclude or rule out. 1 or 2, you're just to go ahead and guess. That would be my recommendation. But then I'm also prone to be hooked up in Las Vegas or something like that. So I wouldn't leave an exam without having filled out all questions. But that's a personal treat of mine. I see many people do quite successful actually omitting because they want to be sure. But hey, we are different. There were a couple of those I wanted to make sure that I have shared with you. So I'm jumping now to okay, a bit slow today. Here we are. Let's have a look at this one. There are a few things that are exemplified. Question?
Yeah, do you get a -1 or a 0 for answering don't know?
You get a 0 for don't know. So don't know is the same as not putting anything. There's no difference there. It's just for, I guess, sort of cognitive reasons that you can put it there. So not putting anything or don't know is the same thing. That's a 0. Now let's have a look at a couple of the I want to show you a couple of examples of some stuff here. Bless you. In the study, the transport delivery times for 3 transport firms are compared, and the study also involves the size of the transported item. For delivery times in days, the following data, not a good one, a misprint here, a word lacking, are found, or is found. I'm always confused about the plural or not plural of the word data. Klugscheissers. But you're probably right, thanks. Sorry. In R was run, this one, and the following output was obtained. However, some of the values has been replaced by some symbolic A, B, C, D. Analysis of variance table. This is an output from R. This is just to show you how output from R can appear in the exam. This is the way. I have told you also in the R note that this is the way you will be faced with R. Even though you may not need to have R up and running there, I will recommend you to have that. That's the best way of working with stats, to have the R up and running. But you could take the exam without having R up and running while you are there. Please remember the internet is closed down, of course. So if you want anything from the internet, you have to have it on your computer in a way, right? Was that a question or comment, actually? I guess if you have a disk such that you could have the entire internet, then this principle would be pushed a little bit. But then again, I mean, probably we don't have disks like that still for you to bring. There is a gray area there, so I don't know. What situation is this? What is A, B, and C, and D in this case? Well, I think we have no doubt that this is analysis of variance we are talking about here, right? We also have a table. Here's the data table and the Anova table on the same slide here. Anova, is it one-way or two-way? Two-way, yes. Actually, there is 2 ways of the table. Please note here that the block and the tree, I mean, the block could actually be different things. The block could also be a kind of a treatment, actually. It's just a grouping on the other way of the table, really. And of course, if we were in doubt, we could look at the table and see that we have both something here, something there, and then a residual. We have 2 things and a residual. Well, if we then compare with the book, if we forgot about things, we could see that this matches the 2-way table with treatment, block, and residuals. Not only treatment, residuals, right? So we could, in this way, find we're in the 2-way setting. Then we should find out what is A, B, C, and D. Let's just make sure we can do that. We have to be familiar with what the Anova table is, at least for doing it fast. Otherwise, we would have to look it up in the book if we're not familiar as such. A, the sum of squares. Let me see, is that the difficult part? Actually, maybe we should take it from the other side. The C and the D, the C and the B, the mean squares. The mean square, we would have to know that this F statistic here, right? The F here for a firm, if I write like this, that is MS firm, let me write like this, divided by MSE. So B would then be the F firm times MSE. This is really difficult for me now, even though it's just 3 numbers to keep track of here. Which means, and here we have MSE, right? MSE. So we can find that it's 4.2857 times 0.05833. So this would actually give the B, which is this number, actually. I just checked because I know the right result here, so that's an easy way to make the computation for me now. And so on. I mean, we don't have time. We have to sort of combine the things. For instance, also we should know that the mean square, that's maybe the more easy one, that the C, which is the mean square for the item size, that is the sum of square divided by df, sort of in general writing. So that would be 1 times 44667 divided by 2, which becomes 0.723. And sometimes we may get lucky, actually, that we don't have to do all the computations to find the correct answer. Actually, now we wouldn't have to do anything more, since if we are pretty certain that this is the B and this is the C, there is only, I believe, looking at it here, one where these 2 numbers are, and then we actually don't have to do anything more. Of course, then if you have the time, you could go check 1 or 2 more to sort of just double check maybe, but don't double check too much if you have 30 questions, and rather spend the time do some of the stuff that you haven't done, right? Then spend your time double checking. That's my recommendation. If you have done everything, then you can double check. But before double checking, do something new to enhance your probability of collecting points. That's my recommendation. Now you can stop and question if you want to. Let's do the next 2 ones also and the same. Actually, each individual question can be answered separately. There is the story, I mean like this, now there is a question 17, which has to do with the same sort of input story to the overall exercise, to this exercise 7, Roman number 7. However, the different answers in the different questions do not interfere with each other. So don't waste your time trying to learn from the previous or the following question within the same story, because it doesn't help you. Because we are very focused that it's not supposed to help you. And on the other hand, it helps you in the way that you can do each individual exercise by itself, each individual question, I should say, on its own, without having to look at the other ones, right? So we are very focused on that. But so you can not get any help, and you don't need any help. That's the 2 sides of it. Don't waste your time trying to get some help from the other ones. The conclusion. This is a nice recap of how rapidly to read Anova tables, both the one way and the two way. It's the same principle. What is really the conclusion of the analysis? Using the usual test level of 5%. Before we look at all the options, let's have a look at the Anova table. And let me emphasize that when we are looking at the Anova table, to get the actual conclusion about which really matters and which does not matter in the context we are looking at, there's one and only one column that makes the whole story. That's the p-value column. We look at the p-value because there is the results of two hypothesis tests, and the results of these tests are the ones that I'm asking for, typically, when I'm asking about what is the result of an analysis of variance. The result is, and we compare with alpha, and the most commonly used alpha, as is also given here, is the 5%. This one is larger than alpha, so we accept the null hypothesis that firm has no effect. So there's no difference between the firms. We accept the null that they are the same. This p-value is below 5%, so we reject the idea, the hypothesis, that the three item sizes have the same level. So the conclusion is item size matter. Firm does not matter in expressing differences of whatever we measure here, right? This is significant. This is non-significant. So the conclusion is, let's see if I can answer this without looking at my sheet here with the correct answers. What was, I already forgot. The item size was the only thing that mattered, right? The firm, did not matter. Only the size of the item has a significance. That looks right. That looks correct. Phew, that was correct. All the others are wrong. Neither, or both of them, or only, or sometimes there could be some meaningless question options, right? As I've said previously, this is the only fun part, apart from being really nasty, which, I mean, that's not fun. I mean, it doesn't really make you happy. It just gives a sort of very short feeling of something. So I try not to be mean because it doesn't actually bring you much happiness. But the only thing funny about making exams are making funny alternative questions that is meaningless. And what if I could get someone tick this one off? That would be funny. I'm not trying to really fool you. I'm just trying to enjoy life, right? I'm serious about it. Don't think I'm not serious about it. If you had that idea for some reason. Here's another important example of what you can see. It's following the same data actually, but a quite different question. Let's read the question. A 95% confidence interval for the potential difference in means between firm A and B is wanted. So it's only firm A and B. But without the assumption of normally distributed data. Now when you hear this, without the assumption of normality, you should already, I bet he wants me to simulate, right? It's the only tool I've given you when we do not assume, in the quantitative data situation, the measuring data situation, when we don't assume normality, then the simulation part is what I've given to you. But then again, it's pretty clear, if you read on, that's what you are facing here. The following R code, I say, was used to find a bootstrap-based confidence interval. So I mean, we're not so much in doubt about where we are and what we are up to. Then I give you some code here, which can be refound basically in the R node on simulation. So I'm showing you some code, which is something you had the chance to see before, and which is part of the curriculum in the R node, the announced curriculum, to be able to identify what comes out of such a code. And I even help you. I tell you what it is, and then I show you what it is. Right? I say here I do some bootstrapping in a two-sample situation. Basically, I tell you that. Then I I also say what I do. I show you some art code. I realize maybe you haven't never used the rounding function of R that can round off to 3 decimal points. But then I also, just to share with you, I tell you what I've done. I tell you that the next to last R line finds 8, this is this one, different percentiles. These are the different percentiles. Or not the percentiles themselves, the percentages defining the percentiles of the bootstrap distribution, which in the last line is printed out with 3 significant figures. So that's, I'm telling you what I've done, and here are the results of the bootstrap showing not the entire bootstrap distribution, but a selection of percentiles of the bootstrap distribution. Then the question comes now. What is the 95% confidence interval for the possible difference in means between firm A and B based on this? Of course, you would have seen that if you check the data, I've used the firm A and firm B data as my X and Y. Well, if you're not scared away with this story and the bootstrap, this is an extremely simple question to answer. Because when I do a 95% confidence interval, if you look up the method or remember it, how should you construct a 95% confidence interval? This is having 2.5% in each tail. So, here they are, right? We read off, that's the way we do bootstrap confidence intervals. We read off the percentiles of our observed distribution. Of course, I have to give it to you because I'm not requiring of you to actually do it in R when you're there. I mean, you could do it if you want, but I'm not asking you to do it. I'm showing you, here are the results as it comes out of R. I've done it for you. Look at the results and tell me what it means, right? That's the way I put the exercise. And then hopefully we should be able to find this confidence interval somewhere. 2. I agree with myself. So, that's a classical one for the bootstrap part. That's actually it. You are actually asked to do some of these, probably also the ones that I shared with you now, but then there are plenty of exercises for you to practice from now on, and during the next 2 hours and until Saturday the 15th. Don't worry, I will be there enjoying the Saturday here at DTU with you in my office. Since you have the right to call me if you think something is wrong. This usually happens, let me just finish off with this. It's not too uncommon that people is calling for me because they believe something is wrong. Most often something is not wrong. And the only thing you will be told is there is nothing wrong. Right? Of course, obviously, you don't get any help. That's not allowed. So you don't get any help. You're just getting, if you think something is wrong, and there's not, I just say there's nothing wrong. And in a way, you have wasted some minutes on that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just, again, recommending you. You're also allowed to email me after the exam. And people usually do that also, and that's fair enough. If you believe something, and it sometimes happens that suddenly something has a double meaning that neither me nor the censor has thought about. So sometimes suddenly things could be understood in different ways. Then it will always be taken into account post hoc in the way we judge the points. So if there is any fishy things, I still recommend don't spend too much time on it if you can get it out of your head. Rather maybe spend the time after the exam. And if it is fishy, you'll get the benefit of it afterwards, everyone. And so this is just to say, you are allowed to call me, but you don't have to. I'll be there, though. I'll be happy to come if it's needed. So, enjoy the afternoon and enjoy the preparation, enjoy the exam, enjoy Christmas, and I hope you'll be all well out there.